What about Rooney's salary if he moves to China? That's back in the wind again, it seems. The Chinese transfer deadline at the end of this month.
Yeah.
So, is there a decision to be made, Steve, with Rooney?
Well,
for Rooney?
Only I would imagine if the club don't make it clear they don't want him. I would find it strange if he...
Bench last week against Watford, wasn't he? Didn't come on.
Yeah, and he's not been in the picture for, you know, since basically he broke the record. He's kind of been out the picture, really, quite a bit. We're told he's got an injury, then he might be fit again, then he's not fit, then he's on the bench. You know, talk about him playing the other night, today at Blackburn, that's kind of in the wind as well. So I think all of that has added to, you know, the backdrop of will he go to China? You know, I've spoken to.
But does it feel like it's back on? Yeah.
And they don't see any reason why he shouldn't finish the season at Manchester United and then take stock of where his career is. I can't see United forcing him out the door. He's their captain. You know, he holds the records. He's revered at United.
Not forcing him out, but the door's open, isn't it, here?
Yeah, of course it is, yeah, because he's no longer a starter. He's no longer a regular. And, you know, I saw Paul Scholes the other day sort of musing whether, you know, Wayne Rooney's ego, if you like, can take not being, you know, a part of Manchester United's first team as a regular anymore. Sure. He's the captain still, yet he doesn't play. So I think, you know, there are decisions to be made. Now, because China, the window doesn't close till the end of the month, Feb 28, I think, you know, until that day, there's going to be speculation that he might sign a deal with someone.
Yeah, I mean, I would have thought, you know, if United are dealing himself as requirements, I think he is, personally. I think if he doesn't go now, then he goes in the summer, I think they'd be happy for him to do that. Then they're not going to get a bigger offer from what we can get from China. Sure. So obviously they'd be pleased for him to go now. If that's the biggest offer they're going to realise in the next year, they're going to want to take it, notwithstanding the fact that maybe ideally they say, like, see through the season. But if this offer's so big that they think that's the best offer for them, they're going to be quite happy for him to go. What I'm fascinated to find out is he willing to go? Is he actually willing to go to China? I don't know, because I hear conflicting things about it. I don't see it.
I think he would be if he believed that was
the best option for him.
The best option for him.
Okay. The other problem is, of course, that's the end of his England career, isn't it?
Of course it is. Yeah.
Let's talk Millwall-Leicester. Big story this. Millwall beating the Premier League champions. Magnificent result for them. Yet another Premier League team that they've beaten. More pressure on Claudio Ranieri. Let's deal with Millwall and his momentous day at the New Den. Their third Premier League scalp in the FA Cup this season, Steve. How big a story is it for them?
Well, it's massive, and in many respects, it's as good as the Lincoln story. Not quite got the fairy tale aspect to it, but Millwall were down to 10 men for quite a long time in that game, and you know, to come back, and I suspect that of all the draws yesterday and over this weekend in the FA Cup, Lincoln aside, Millwall probably have wanted Leicester. Because Leicester are in free fall. They are absolutely... Let's talk about some of the potential replacements. It's not a subject I'm entirely comfortable with because they've still got a manager. But I do appreciate that Arsenal have got to do their own due diligence. They've got to have their own ideas, Crossy, on who might be the man to replace Arsene Wenger when he eventually goes. So who's in the frame?
Well, I think you've got to look at someone like Tuchel at Dortmund. Mats Allegri at Juventus, who I think is interested in the job. I've seen his sort of protestations that he wants to stay, but I do. I think there'd be a lot of managers going for that job. I mean, Simeone, I think, would be interested. Whether he would fit the profile is another thing. I don't think he would. Just because I think they would want someone who's quite even-handed, wants to play good football, and Wenger has delivered very, very good football for 20 years, marvellous football. And I think they want to follow in that good passing style, attacking, and it's really good to see. I think Roger Schmidt is perhaps the outsider from Leverkusen, who, you know, is in action this week in the Champions League. Personally, I think you need someone with the gravitas. I thought Jamie Carragher did a brilliant column in the Mail yesterday about sort of saying that Arsenal were successful before, they'll be successful again. When Wenger arrived, he wasn't a particularly renowned name. And I do feel that we've moved on so much in the 20 years following that we know these guys, whereas Wenger, I think we'd know Wenger when he arrived at Arsenal if it were 20 years on, if you see what I mean. Yep. But I just feel that they need someone of a stature and a standing that will be able to say to Mesut Ozil, I'm going to take this club forward, I want you to stay. Look, I think
I thought you were going to say he was going to substitute.
Well, I know. Well, he should have done. I mean, it's remarkable. I mean, that again, question marks Wenger's management, how he can leave him on the pitch. He was shockingly bad on Wednesday night. How anyone can see that he should stay on the pitch is wrong.
Nick and Living?
Well, he was Wednesday night.
Jace, Cross just mentioned some of the names in the frame, some of the contenders. Who do you think is the man succeeding?
That's a big question, obviously. I mean, I think John's right. There'll be a lot of people out there who want the job. It's because it's the one sort of underexploited Premier League job. I mean, everything is in place. You know, you've got the stadium, you've got the training ground, you've got the budget, you've got the cachet, you've got the fan base. There's so much to go at with Arsenal. And actually, following on from Wenger, I don't think it's going to be as hard as it was following on from Ferguson. I agree with Steve. I think it's a different dynamic. I think that there actually are people at Arsenal who are desperate to sort of have more freedom, more authority, more chance to do things themselves as well. And I think that's also quite interesting. But one interesting name, I was thinking about this as well, one interesting name, obviously they've just beaten Arsenal, is Ancelotti, because Ancelotti isn't having the greatest time at Bayern Munich. And I know for a fact he really does like Arsenal as a club. And when he left Chelsea, he was turning up at Arsenal quite a lot just to sort of see things. He'd be quite an interesting character. But I actually think they might have to look at restructuring themselves a little bit and maybe not going for a like-for-like replacement, and maybe the idea of a younger coach with somebody working alongside him, director of football type or whatever. I think that might work at Arsenal. I think it might be a change there, that they could do that instead. But there'll be so many good candidates. I mean, Simeone, Allegri's a big, interesting candidate, Sampaoli at Seville. There's lots of different candidates out there that they could get. And this is the process they should be doing right now. And that's why I think, personally, it would help everyone if it was resolved right now, if Wenger did come out right now and say, look, OK, I am going at the end of the season. People might say it's a knee-jerk reaction to the Munich result. Well, it's not really, is it? Yeah. I mean, you know, it's not one result. And I think it would help the situation. Then the club could move forward and do more of a transition.
I think they missed the boat. I think they missed the boat, Arsenal. I mean, for me, you know, the manager who fitted their DNA absolutely perfectly, and him theirs, was Guardiola. I think he would have been a fantastic manager for Arsenal, because the way Arsenal play, their philosophy, their whole kind of ethos about football is already Guardiola's, apart from the winning. And I think he would have been a fantastic manager. And the fact that they have let this drift, and you're now talking about a possibility, who, it could be anybody, take your pick. The fact that Arsenal haven't had some kind of line of succession kind of already in place really smacks of bad management for me. They've had a long time to think about this. OK, United got it wrong, but there's no reason why Arsenal didn't have to do that. Yeah. And if you're talking about an outside name, I think the boy at Hull, Marco Silva, who's doing a fantastic job there. If you're going to go for somebody with perhaps potential, with somebody alongside him, I think for me he'd be a good fit. Disgrace, really. I think they're shocking. For them to have fallen so far from where they were a year ago is just, well, it's indefensible, really. And
why are they a disgrace, though?
Well, I think they are. I mean, listen, Manchester United and Chelsea both won titles and then finished sort of 7th and 13th, Chelsea last season? 10th. So it can happen. But the way that Leicester have collapsed is just, you know, it's shameful. You know, the players need to look at themselves. I think the manager also needs to take a look at himself. And, you know, we're talking about here whether Wenger should keep his job. I'm seriously thinking, you know, should Claudio Ranieri keep his job? People say, oh, it spoiled the fairy tale of what happened last season. That's gone. And that's the problem with Leicester. They can't move on. I think Leicester are still stuck in last season. You go to their ground for a match day and you've got all those BMW cars that the chairman gave them in the car park. It's kind of a visible symbol of that title-winning side. And, you know, so many things have gone wrong there, and all their top players, Mahrez, Vardy, the defence has been appalling. I mean, Huth, Morgan, they've been absolutely shocking. And, you know, I was not at all surprised yesterday to see them lose that game. And for Millwall to win it with 10 men just absolutely sums it all up.
Jason, wherever the divisions are in the dressing room, whatever the feelings are towards Claudio Ranieri, my thoughts on it are that Leicester's players, they owe that club and they owe their supporters to start performing, to take them clear of the relegation zone. But at the moment, they don't have that instinct, that survival instinct. They would have survived. Last season, that game at Millwall, they would have survived. Come on.
Yeah. Well, what's fascinating about it is that this is a group of players who are used to sort of being down there, being in relegation battles, fighting for survival. So you'd expect them to sort of kick that mode to kick back in, but it just hasn't. And I think Steve's right. They've been doing a lap of honour all season, basically, and that's been the problem there. And I think there comes a point where you have to draw a line in the sand, and you think every time you think they reach that point, they go further. And you know, you can look at it very harshly and say this is a group of journeyman players had a one-off season, most extraordinary season ever, and now they've gone back to type, basically. What you'd have hoped was that this is a group of players who've been underappreciated, underachieved, maybe overlooked, have got to the level they needed to be at or close to that, and then they're going to maintain something close to that going forward. So you'd expect them... I didn't expect them to finish top 4, but you'd expect them to finish 10th, top 10 and have a stab at the Champions League, which they have done, again with Seville this week. But to drop as far as they have, I think you're right. And the problem with footballers, you know, without being too critical, is they don't take responsibility at times. You know, they will look for excuses to blame other people for what's gone wrong. And I think that's what's happening there. I think they're looking at other people and looking at each other and looking at other factors outside of the club and are blaming that for the demise or the problems they've got there at the moment. And it's up to them to sort it out, really, as well. I think Ranieri's made an awful lot of mistakes. Some of them were inevitable. I think there's been, you know, he didn't change the squad in certain ways that he should have done. The rewarding players with big contracts wasn't necessarily him, but that had to happen. But he needs to manage now. He needs to deal with the situation, and he's come out quite late to have a go back at the players. He's made lots of changes. It hasn't worked again yesterday. He's got a massive game this week against Seville. I think they're going to do well to survive relegation. I think Steve's right. It probably has reached the point that they probably have to think about making a change.